Tonight we're beginning a series on the weekly Parashat. I called it Impression Weekly Parashat, or Insights, important lessons that we can learn from Parashat of the week. Before I begin, I want to share with you something that I bought in Eretz Israel, which I think clearly demonstrates what happened in Matan Torah, in Har Sinai. Something incredible happened that left its impression permanently on the stone. The entire mountain of Har Sinai, where the Torah was given, on every stone, there is an image of the sneh, the bush Moshe observed when he first came in contact with Hashem. And not only on every piece of stone of this mountain is there an impression of this bush. Even if you take this stone and you break it into every piece of bush. They even recently broke it down to almost powder. And through a microscope they were able to sneh in every granule. This is something incredible. And if you want to see it, I'll be happy to share it with you after the class. You can come into the stone and see the Seneh very quickly. I'll go to you afterwards. Yeah, approximately, sure. They know where it is. So this week's Parashat is Parashat Yitro, and there are many important lessons in this week's Parashat, and I'll try to consolidate them. After all, the most important event of the Parashat is Matan Torah. So we'll talk a little bit about the significance of that event, the various lessons that are found in this week's Parashat. Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah in Sinai, is a very important event in the history of mankind. Not only for Am Yisrael, but it is a certain point in the history of mankind where, according to the Kabbalah, a certain process is almost stopped. I'll explain what I mean by almost. And that is the process of Birur Hara Me'atov. Ever since the creation, we have had a system that I like to call a filter, where Hashem has slowly but surely been filtering out those unholy sparks, those bad sparks, those evil sparks from the good sparks. There is a mixture of sparks, or neshamot, of souls, that contained good and bad. And this is a whole lecture in itself. What does that mean? How did it happen? We somewhat covered it in the series of the Kabbalah, that up until a certain time, the souls were mixed. To give you a few quick examples, Yitzchak, Rivka. They're both tzaddikim, they're both good people, they're both good souls, but one of their children is Esav. The other one is Yaakov, but still the other one is Esav. Abraham has a Yitzchak and he has a Yishmael. Well, Ishmael happens to be from another woman, which has something to do with it. Nevertheless, up until the time of Matan Torah, you could have all kinds of souls, a family, because there's a mixture of Ra and Tov, which only has been filtering out slowly, generation by generation, and that is why the Torah was not given earlier. The Torah cannot be given to a people who have a mixture of good and bad in their souls. This is a Torah that is meant to be kept, an eternal Torah. Hashem has to guarantee that it will succeed, and those neshamot that have too much of a mixture of bad in them will not be able to practice it, to fulfill what it says, as we will see later on. So at this point of Matan Torah, Hashem has already began filtering the Ra from the Tov, and once we get to Yaakov's 12 children are completely good. They're all good. There's no more pisolet. There's still a little bit of birur, a little bit of filtering, a little bit of cleansing that still needs to be done, and that happens as I will explain. But after they leave Egypt, they're finally ready. Hashem says, I'm ready to form the Jewish nation, something that did not exist up until now. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were not really Jewish. Even though they practiced certain mitzvot, even though they are our forefathers, that is where everything began. Am Yisrael forms in Egypt and really takes form and shape in Matan Torah, and eventually when they enter Eretz Israel. It is at this point that this nation is ready to receive the Torah. Why this nation? Because this nation contains the rikuz of the Tov. The greatest concentration of good is found in this people, and Hashem intended it to be that way. He needs at least one people, one nation, that will have the highest concentration to be able to Torah. So their filtering is almost complete. It will be completed when Mashiach will come, when the Ra will completely disappear. It will only be good. But at this point, that is where the highest concentration is to be found in the Jewish people. So the Jewish people are ready to receive the Torah. Even though I just said that the greatest concentration of good is to be found in people, Hama'agal eno sagur. The circuit is not closed. What this means is that there are still good sparks out there, and unfortunately there are still some evil sparks amongst Amis. The evil sparks amongst us is due to the fact that we took in the Erev Rav, those multitudes of the nations that joined us when we left Egypt. Unfortunately, we still have to deal with that. And then there are also some nitzotzot tovim, some good sparks on the outside. The bad sparks, the bad neshamot, that evil which is still amongst us, is very dangerous, and that's why the Torah tells us many places in different words, Pen yebachem shoresh kore rosh vela'ana. If you ever come across someone amongst you is a bitter herb that is dangerous, not only is he cooled off from their religion, he may cool others off too. Be careful with that. Take whatever measures you need to remove that from amongst you. Don't let that spread. And many of them, unfortunately, have caused a lot of harm, these bitter herbs, and on their own themselves, they have left the religion. But let's talk a little bit about the good sparks. The good neshamot, the good sparks that are still out there that have not been joined to the Jewish people. They're still out there. And the rabbis tell us that miderech hatov lidavek batov. That which is good, it's like a magnet. He is attracted to that which is. Another word for goodness, divinity. There's a certain amount of divinity in the spark of every human being. We are created in the image of Hashem. We have a neshama. Even though there are different levels of neshamot, we all have some divinity. It just happens to be, and the Kabbalah discusses it at length, that some neshamot have more divinity, and therefore they are more naturally attracted to that which is divine. So the few sparks that are still left out there, that were left out there, contain in them a certain amount of divinity, and that is why they are attracted to divinity. Now, this week's parasha begins with Yitro joining the Jewish nation. There is a discussion whether the Yitro came before Matan Torah or after Matan Torah. That's a discussion that the rabbis get involved with. It's unimportant now. The fact is that Yitro was an outsider. He is an example of an individual that had many good sparks in him. He is an example of what I'm trying to point out here, that the ma'agal no sagur, the circuit is not closed. Even though the nation is being formed with the concentration of divine sparks, we allow others. This is not a completely private club. Even though you can call it a club, yes, in a sense, we have a certain goal, but it's open, and it's open to those who sincerely want to join. And those that are sincere, it's only because they have some divinity in them, some good sparks in them. That, of course, excludes those that want to convert because they want a marriage or because they want to become legalized in this country and they want to get papers, right? We're excluding those. That's not sincere. But there are individuals out there who have goodness in them, who have this divine spark, and obviously the door has been left open for them. Now we can understand what the Midrash tells us. There's an interesting Midrash. It says that Hashem, before He gave the Torah to the Jewish people, actually offered it to every nation in the world. Now obviously we don't take Midrashim literally. It doesn't mean He actually went over. Did you want it or not? Even though the Midrash makes it appear like He went over to Ishmael. Ishmael, by the way, do you want the Torah? Ishmael says, what does it say? It says, Lo tignov. Hashem pointed out of the 10 commandments, the most difficult commandment that Ishmael will have, that a nation will have. Ishmael has a problem with stealing. So they said, it says Lo tignov, forget it, it's not for us. He went over to Edom. Edom was told, Lo tirtzah, I can't kill, no murder allowed, it's not for me. But what the Midrash really means is that Hashem knew that all these nations have some characteristic in them that would make it difficult for them to accept the Torah. And even if they accept it, they will have a very difficult time keeping it for many generations to come. And therefore, the Torah was not given to them. Torah is given to the greatest concentration of good, which has the best chances. Am Yisrael happens to be a stubborn nation. Well, stubbornness is good. Because we were stubborn, we resisted. We did not give in so easy. So Hashem obviously knows who to give the Torah to. However, even though we were the ones to accept the Torah and the other nations were not capable, the Gaon of Vilna says a very interesting pshat. And this pshat was told to us also by the famous convert called Potocki during the time of the Gaon of Vilna. When he was asked, how could you let go all the wealth, position that was awaiting you? You was from a very prominent family. You would eventually become probably the Pope or some important bishop. How could you resist all the pressures? How could you have the courage to let go of all of this? Where did it come from? Why did you think of that? And this is what he said, based on, I think, what the Gaon of Vilna. When Hashem offered the Torah to all the nations and they refused, you think they all refused? The majority refused. In every single nation, there were some individuals who would have accepted it. But we go after the majority. The majority of Edom did not want it. The majority of Ishmael did not want it, and so forth. So what about the minority? There were a few good souls that would have received, would have accepted the Torah. Hashem takes those few who megalgelotam. He eventually brings them down, reincarnated, and they are the ones shebaim tachat kanfei shekhinah. They are the ones that convert and join the Jews. They are the ones, the souls, who had a greater amount of divinity, of good sparks in them. Hashem does not leave them out. And eventually somehow brings. That is one peshat to explain convert. But there's other peshatim, there are other explanations of why somebody joins it. The common denominator is still the same. They all have a certain amount of divinity. As I've explained, we spoke about why a Jew cannot marry a non-Jew. There are individuals out there that simply have much more divinity to them, and they are attracted, simply attracted to Judaism and they are sincere, the doors are not closed, and that is why they join. Then there are others who, at one time, their forefathers were Jewish, like the Marranos in Spain. And unfortunately, because of the circumstances, many have assimilated and intermarried. And Hashem says, Ki lo yidach mimeni nidach. I will not allow one soul to be abandoned and lost forever. And Hashem brings back those lost souls. For some reason, they feel awakened, attracted to Judaism. For some reason that they cannot explain. So that is another type of convert, that once upon a time his forefathers or her forefathers were Jewish. The soul is awakened to come back and embrace people once again. What about those Jews who have left Judaism and converted to other religions? So the Ger Pototsky explains, I think it's also based on the Gaon of Vilna, that they were the ones amongst the Jewish people who did not want to resign. Just like there were some amongst the Gentiles who wanted, but were left out because the majority overruled them. Amongst Am Israel, there were some individuals, especially the Arab, who were not excited. 613 commandments. But what can they do? The majority said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do it. We will follow. And they went along. But they on their own did not want to. They eventually are the ones who abandoned. Shememirim et datam. Who converted to other religions. Possibly, this is just an explanation that was given by the converts and by others to explain this phenomena, how others join and how others do. And it's possible because of this fact that depending on how much Tov and how much Ra they have in their neshama. Am Yisrael is ready to receive the Torah, but something else had to happen right before Matan Torah that will further prepare them. Not only the filtering of the neshamot, but also something called Galut Mitzrayim. When you read about the bondage in Egypt, you think about perhaps that the brothers of Yosef had to atone for. Okay, that's true too, but that's not the only reason. Hashem had already said that this will take place. This needs to happen. They will be in bondage in Mitzrayim for a certain amount of years. And there must be some benefits from bondage, from slavery. One of the benefits of Galut Mitzrayim was to prepare them for Matan Torah. In what way? In Mitzrayim, Am Yisrael consolidated. They became very close to it. Whenever you are in a foreign land, you're looked down, you're not treated equally. That is the best recipe for becoming close to your own brothers and sisters. Because they hate your guts. Well, I might as well stick with my brothers. If everybody is treated equally, and that opens up the doors to intermarriage and assimilation. Am Yisrael is becoming more and more united and becoming closer. And the bondage is also humbling because they are serving Paro, which will help them serve Hashem. So Galut Mitzrayim is helping them psychologically, mentally, emotionally for Kabbalat Torah. And on top of that, towards the end of Galut Mitzrayim, come along the Makot. All the plagues that the Egyptians, not only as retribution for what they did, but also to impress upon Am Yisrael, leman tesaper, so that you should be able to retell the story to your children and to your children's children. Et asher talalti b'Mitzrayim. All of these miracles, the Ototom of the plagues, were also to impress on us, not just for the Egyptians, to strengthen our emunah in preparation for Matan Torah. So there's a tremendous amount of benefit that we derived from Galut Mitzrayim, from this whole experience. Then the emunah became even stronger in Matan Torah and in the 40 years that we spent in the desert when we saw the man coming down and all the other things that we witnessed. But after we leave Mitzrayim, we're still not yet ready. What has to happen to Yetziat Mitzrayim and Kabbalat Torah? 50 days have to go by. Exactly 50 days. Why 50? Because unfortunately, Am Yisrael, even though we derived some benefits from Galut Mitzrayim, became very close to each other, unfortunately, being with the Egyptians, something sticks to you. Like you're going to a perfume shop. Even though you don't buy the perfume, you come out smelling. Hopefully you're smelling good. They came out of Mitzrayim attached to Tumah, the Tumah of the Avodah Zarah, of the idols of Egypt. They came down to the 49th level of Tumah. They were very, very low. So even though they were together, they believed in Hashem, they had all this Tumah in them. And according to the Kabbalah, every single day that they were on their way to Matan Torah and Har Sinai was to remove one level of Tumah. All the 49 levels had to be removed. They had to grow in Kedusha. They had to be holy in order to be able to read Torah. So that time was given to them, that extra time, in order to take a bath, a shower, remove that Tumah. And slowly but surely, the Tumah is removed and they're finally ready to. So we finally get to Matan Torah. Now what does Hashem expect of us? What does Hashem want of the Jewish people that's different from everybody else? We're all human beings. A lot of the times, the Goyim tell us off. Who are you to think of yourself as a chosen people? You think of yourself so high that you're the chosen? People mistake that term, chosen people. Chosen does not mean that we think highly of ourselves. Chosen means that we were chosen for a particular task. And it's not an easy task. So it's not that we think highly of ourselves. Am nivhar lemesima mesuyeme, for a particular task. Not that we think highly of ourselves. But the question is, nevertheless, what does Hashem want of us. What is that task? What makes us different? And the answer to this is in this week's Parashat too, when Hashem instructs us, reminds us, "Vatem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim vegoy kadosh," that you will be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. What is a kingdom of priests? There are basically three explanations brought down by the commentaries of what Mamlechet Kohanim means. Goy Kadosh means simple. You follow the mitzvot, you will be a holy nation. Mamlechet Kohanim either means a kingdom of priests, meaning you will be important, especially if you follow the Torah mitzvot, you will be rewarded. You will be sarim, nichbadim, you will be very, very special people. In other words, you are being put on a much more elevated status. That's a simple peshat. Mamlechet Kohanim also means what we've always known, that Am Yisrael was chosen to be an example, or lagoim, a light unto the nation. We will be a kingdom of priests meaning teachers and leaders, where others can emulate and follow our ways and become like us. So we have to set the example. That's Mamlechet Kohanim. And then you have Mamlechet Kohanim, according to the Kabbalah, means Mishartei Hashem. We will be the servants of Hashem. Hashem needs servants in this world. He has servants in the upper worlds. They are the Malachim, the angels. He needs some servants too to do the spiritual work. Not all the dirty work. It's not that we can't do that too. We can work physically too. But he needs spiritual work. Who's going to work in the Bet HaMikdash? Who's going to bring all the korbanot? There are some spiritual positions. He needs people to fill that role. You, the Jewish people, will be Mamlechet Kohanim. You will be the Meshartei Hashem. And if you do your job properly, you will be an Am Kadosh. You will be a holy nation. Now, in order to be holy, several things have to be done. One, you have to follow the mitzvot. These commandments are for your benefit. I don't need them. Hashem, I don't need anything. I want to preserve you as my servants. I want you to be around forever. I want you to be elevated. In order for that to happen, you have to follow these mitzvot. These are the rules. This is the diet that you have to follow. And if you follow it, you will be holy. Holy means above everybody else, different than everybody else, because you have a different job, a different role. But holiness can also come about if you only marry amongst yourselves. Because, what did we just say before? All of this concentration of neshamot tovot, of nitzotot tovot, of good sparks are in you. You can't afford to dilute that. You can't therefore intermarry with just anybody, unless they convert. That is why Hashem tells us at the very end, at the very moment that right before they're about to enter Eretz Israel, He tells them, Hayom niyeta le'am. Today you have become a nation. Today we have become a nation in Matan Torah. That statement is made 40 years later, right before they enter Eretz Israel. What do you mean, Hayom niyeta le'am? So the commentators explain what Hashem is reminding us through Moshe Rabbeinu. That moment, right before we enter Eretz Israel, is the end of the giving over of the mitzvot. What did we just say before? The mitzvot are intended to preserve us as a nation, for us to be holy. Right before the enter Eretz Israel is the last communication from Hashem directly to us through Moshe, as far as mitzvot are concerned. Now we enter Eretz Israel, we're ready to begin all the work. All the mitzvot will now apply. Just about all of them. Why now? Why Ayom Niyeta Le'am? Hashem is reminding us, it is through the mitzvot that you are becoming a nation. Not through entering Eretz Israel. You're about to enter Eretz Israel and you might be very Zionistic and say, great, this is our land. This is what makes the Jewish people, that we have a piece of land just like everybody else in the world. Italy has a land. Germany has. So does France. No, Hashem says, Ayom Niyeta Le'am. What that means is, you have become a nation, you have been formed into a nation only through the mitzvot. Only the mitzvot, and not through this land that you're about to enter. You know why? Because the land you may lose. And unfortunately, we have lost our land many times. But the kesher to the mitzvot, you cannot afford to lose. What will make you survive throughout history of mankind, what has not happened to any other nation, what will keep you together as a nation, what will make you a nation, is not the land or the language, it's the mitzvot. Hayom niyeta le'am. Therefore, right now, at the end of the receiving of the mitzvot, remember this. This is what's making you into a nation. This is what will preserve you as a nation. This is the secret of the nitzchiyut, of the eternity of the Jewish nation. The mitzvot, not the land. Land without mitzvot is worthless. It's the mitzvot, it's the Torah that has kept us together forever. That is why the rabbis tell us, B'chol yom yiyu be'einecha kachadashim. The Torah should be in your eyes every single day, should be new to you, or as though you received it today. How could one say that he received the Torah today? What's the meaning behind these words? As though I received it today, I received it many, many years ago. How could one even think like that? The rabbis are telling us that there's something that happens over time. It's called shigra, routine. Routine has a problem. What's its problem? It causes people to forget. It weakens people's resolve. it cools people's excitement. And Hashem says, this cannot happen to you. Over time, this may happen, but it cannot. Chas v'shalom, if this were to happen to you, because you might let go of the Torah. So the rabbis tell us, remember that the Torah needs to new to you every day as though you received it today. How are we supposed to do that? How can somebody actually think to himself, it's new? It's not. How could you force yourself to think that way? The idea behind this is as follows. Even though we are in a routine ourselves every single day, the rabbis remind us that we should, for a moment, think as though we were in the place of our forefathers. Now, what happened when our forefathers witnessed Matan Torah? It was an incredible event. They had no doubt. Hashem hu Elokim, and they willingly accepted everything, and they had no doubts. Put yourself in their shoes. If you were to see this today, wouldn't you reach the same conclusion? Of course, we would be very much impressed. Well, impress yourself with the Torah. How? By remembering that the Torah is priority number one. They were impressed with it. They readily accepted it. To them it was priority number one. To you too, it should be priority number one. That's one. Number two, since it's priority number one, and since every day is as though you received it, don't let go of it. Don't let go of it any day. Every day be kovea itim Torah. Every day study Torah. That's number two. And number three, be as committed to it as your forefathers. Don't say, oh, this is something from the past, like many people like to say. This doesn't apply today. This is primitive. Yes, once upon a time there was a need to do this and to do that because they were not clean. Today everything is so clean. We don't need the kosher laws, chas v'shalom. No, every single day, assume, make believe that you received it today. It still applies today. It's priority number one. Don't let go of it. That's the idea behind it. Because the Torah is so important, because the mitzvot have to be kept forever. If we were chas v'shalom to assimilate to the ways of the goyim or intermarry with them, all of this would stop automatically. If a person gets into a routine, it doesn't mean that he's completely going to forget about that. He's just going to lose the excitement, but you can bring back the excitement. People are excited from time to time. That is the idea of the holiday. During the holidays, bring out the vodka, bring out the good food, because that will stimulate you to remember something that happened thousands of years ago. So even if somebody gets into a routine, it's still possible to get him back, even though it's dangerous. Unless he considers this priority number one, hopefully he will always know that this is important. But what happens when somebody is... We spoke about neshamot, nitzotzot. Something very important happened in Matan Torah. Not only did the filtering almost stop, from that moment on, Hashem said you can't marry other people. Up until then, we saw in the families of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, they took wives from here, they took wives from here. They had perhaps certain preferences. Go to my family, go to Haran, go to Lavan, and marry his kids. Don't go to somewhere else. But there was no prohibition. You could marry anyone you wanted. What is happening in Matan Torah is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from that moment on, will pass through all those neshamot that have been filtered through one tzinor, through one pipe. All the neshamot of Am Yisrael therefore now come from one branch of this big tree of neshamot, as the Kabbalah describes. And therefore we cannot marry from another branch. They're completely different. There is more kedusha in this particular branch. And if you want to preserve the Torah, if you want your children to continue to preserve the Torah, you want it to last for future generations, you can only marry into this family of neshamot. So no matter what happens to a Jew, it's future generations. You can imagine why many families in Europe sat Shiva. They were mourning over a child who completely went off the way, especially Jesus. That was like the end of the world, because his children are completely going to be gone. So how does one preserve his excitement? The rabbis tell us, the pasuk says, Torah tzivalanu Moshe morasha kilat Yaakov. That this is our inheritance. The rabbi says, don't read it morasha, al tikri morasha ela meurasa. Read it as though the word there does not say morasha, as though it says meurasa, as though it says engaged. When one is engaged to his future wife, he's very excited. He's very happy. He's just looking forward to that wedding. Ask that same individual 25 years down the road, are you still as excited as you were back then? I really hope everyone should be as excited as they were. But unfortunately, time takes a toll. There's a certain routine. Each one gets used to each other. There's a lot of pressures in life. There's kids. And the excitement is not there every day. But you can still reintroduce that excitement. The Torah helps us once a month by separating the husband and wife for a number of days and bring them back together. The Torah forces a mini honeymoon on us once a month. That's for younger people. For people over 60, they have to make their own honeymoon. They have to go out together, do things, spend time talking to each other. And those people who all they do in the evenings is watch TV, read the paper, they're completely not communicating at all. They communicate with the TV, not with each other. A lot of marriages today are cooling off only because people are not communicating with each other, not spending enough time with each other. They're not making their marriage priority number one. The excitement easily goes away when that excitement is replaced by other exciting things. And there are many exciting things out there. So yeah, one has to be careful that he doesn't cool off completely. Cooling off is natural, it's normal. If it happens, look for a way, be creative in bringing back that excitement. Treat your wife as though you were still engaged to her. Meurasa, and the same is true with the Torah. Treat her as though you are engaged to her. This is yours forever. That is why the rabbis remind us that Matan Torah in itself, that event, is really a nesuin. It's really a marriage between Am Yisrael and Hashem, and the Torah is the ketuvah. The whole event of Matan Torah is treated as a marriage. How do you preserve a marriage? There are several important ingredients. Amongst them we have trust, ne'emanut, ahava, love, affection, and mesirut, devotion. There are more, but these are some of the basic ingredients. That's in a real marriage. In Torah, Hashem reminds us that the mitzvot, if you follow the mitzvot, that is what will demonstrate that you love me, that you are devoted, that I can trust you. Why is this so important? This is a very important point, emphasize it, because many people claim it's good enough to be a Jew at heart. I have a Jewish heart. I have a good heart. I'm more Jewish than you, they tell you. But we know that a heart is not enough. Imagine somebody who tells his wife, I love you, 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 24 hours a day. But he doesn't prove it, he doesn't demonstrate it, he doesn't buy her anything, he doesn't write her a nice card, he doesn't help her out in the kitchen, doesn't help her out with the kids, he doesn't talk to her enough. Is she going to believe him? It can't be true. True love has to be proven, it has to be demonstrated. You don't have to do it 24 hours a day, it's not possible, you're not there all the time. But from time to time, you have to remind her, and she has to remind you, that you really care for her. You're really willing to do almost anything, or for him. And you have to do it. Not just say that you can and you will. So words are not enough. You have to do ma'asim to prove it. And the same is true with the mitzvot. It's not enough to just have a good heart. A good heart is important, but prove it. How do you prove it? By showing devotion. And the ultimate test that proves that a Jew is devoted and cares and loves the Torah, loves Hashem, is mesirut nefesh al kiddush Hashem. That one is willing to sanctify God's name by dying for Him if necessary. And many Jews have proven that. That's the ultimate test. This connection that we have with Hashem through the mitzvot is important for another reason. Not only to demonstrate our sincerity and our love, it's also because we have a great responsibility. When Hashem gave us the Torah, He basically made us responsible for this set of mitzvot. You need to do this. And the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments, were all given b'lashon yachid, singular. Kabed et avicha. It doesn't say kabedu. All of you respect. Each one, the Torah is speaking to each one individual, b'lashon yachid. Not in a plural tense, in a singular tense. You do it, or don't do this. Why? Because each one is responsible. A Jew should not think that nothing will happen if he does not do the Torah mitzvot. Like the famous example the rabbis like to give with a boat where many people are sitting, enjoying themselves, going on a ride, and one of the individuals on the boat decides that where he's sitting in his corner, he's going to drill a hole. And everybody starts yelling at him, what are you doing? And he turns back and says, it's none of your business. This is my seat. I'm drilling a hole in my seat. My corner, not in your corner. Yeah. If you drill the hole in your corner, everybody's going to sink. Everybody's going to drown. Every Jew is responsible. No one can say, everything will be okay without me. Hashem needs every one of us. That is why we're all here. Anyone who's here alive today, Hashem has put him here for a reason. He's important. He or she is important. Because we all have this responsibility. And therefore, when something bad happens, because we are responsible, even though it's their fault, whoever it is, but we're all responsible for each other. Kol Yisrael arevin ze lazeh. Therefore, we cannot absolve ourselves of the responsibility. A responsibility was given to us, we assumed it, and that assumption of responsibility carries itself over into every generation. There's a midrash that says that when Hashem gave us the Torah, kafa alehem har kegigit. Many people have a problem with this midrash. Hashem took the mountain of Sinai and put it on above Am Yisrael and says, you receive my Torah, fine. If not, I'll bury you here with this mountain. You mean Hashem forced it upon us? We gladly accepted it. So what's the meaning behind this? I gave in the past several explanations. I'll share with you 3 now. The simple Peshat that the commentaries tell us what this midrash means is not that Hashem is forcing us, but it was so impressive what happened in Matan Torah that who would not accept it? It was as though it was forced upon us. Did we have a choice? It was obvious that Hashem exists, He spoke to us, and the Torah is for real. So kafa alehem har kegigit, the simple meaning according to this commentary is, we were so overwhelmed, so impressed, that it was like we were forced to accept it. Another explanation given is that when Hashem gave us the Torah and we said Naseh v'nishma, kafa alehem har kegigit, Hashem says, wait a minute, not just the Torah that you see here, that I'm giving to you in written form, zegam kolel Torah shebal peh. What you're accepting is also the Torah which is bal peh, the oral word. Don't say I'm only committed to what is written here. Just like some groups amongst Judaism and other religions said, we only accept the words of the Torah, not what the rabbis said, right? They take the Torah word for word literally, and they don't use the interpretations of the rabbis. You can't do that. You cannot have the Torah Shebechtav without the Torah Sheba'al-Peh. You cannot separate it. We need to have the two. That's another interpretation. A third interpretation of Kafah Lehem Har Kegigit is that nobody in the future should say, my father and my grandfather accepted the Torah. Why should I? They accepted, fine, good. I don't want to. And you have no choice. Kafah Lehem Har Kegigit, the rabbis tell us, it was meant for future generations. They cannot come and say, I'm sorry, we don't want it, we're not interested. Your parents signed a contract, it makes you responsible. You have no choice in it. Kafah Lehem Har Kegigit, therefore, they were forced. Future generations are being forced. You cannot opt out. You're in it. Once it was accepted, it was good enough for your forefathers, it should be good enough for you. And why not? You have a problem with it? If it was so good to them, it definitely is good for you. And you have no choice in the matter. That is the meaning of the pasuk, that the words being said here, Moshe tells them right before he passes away, was meant even for La'asher enenu po hayom, for those who are here, standing with me today, and for those who are not standing, with future generations. They need to practice this as well. It's intended for them too. With this, perhaps we can understand another pasuk in this week's Parashat. The Torah tells us that when Am Yisrael was about to receive the Torah, there was a kol shofar. There was a sound of a shofar. And this kol shofar olech v'chazek me'od. It was becoming louder and louder and louder. What's the idea behind it? They couldn't hear it the first time. It had to become louder. So one Peshat that I have mentioned in the past is that Hashem was sounding this shofar for future generations to hear as well. And there is a residue of that kol shofar in every generation. Everyone can hear it. Everyone can hear that kol shofar. Do we hear it? We don't hear it. A neshama hears it. If that's the case, that the shofar is being heard, then why doesn't everybody follow the Torah mitzvot? If everybody can hear somehow this kol shofar, we have a lot of people, unfortunately, that are not willing to observe. They're letting go of their observance of the mitzvot. What is happening? So I put together three basic explanations, even though there may be more, of why people are not readily doing the mitzvot, even though there's a kol shofar out there that is telling them, do this. Explanation number one, you will find in the Haftarah of this week's Parashat, where the Navi, the Prophet, says, Hashmen leva amaz de mishma. These people have become fat, so fat that they do not hear. They become so comfortable, and therefore they do not hear. What does that mean? They have become very materialistic. And materialism makes it difficult for a person to hear spirituality. The two are opposite. When people become very comfortable, and when materialism is important to them, they just don't hear it. Do they not hear it? No, they do hear it, but they don't want it. That's the difference. Everybody hears it, but it becomes difficult for them to accept it. Reason number two, people are not necessarily ready to make changes in their life. They know the truth, but it's difficult to let go of all your good, bad habits, right? All these habits that you've had, how are you going to let go of them? How are you going to change your lifestyle? All these old habits are difficult to give up, and therefore people say, you know what, I'd rather stay the way I am, even though I know this is not right. Number three, people have a problem with who they admire and what's important in their life. Some people admire the wrong people, admire the wrong things, give importance to the wrong thing. And as a result of that, it's impossible for them to give their attention and their admiration to the Torah and to the mitzvot. You cannot split your love so easily. If you are focused on something, then you can love it, you can like it. If you love something else, it's going to be very difficult for you to love something else. In other words, let's say you have 4 or 5 children, and you love them all. Right? Hopefully, a father, a mother loves their children. That love, if it's true, it's deep, cannot be split. You cannot go ahead and give that to someone else out there in the exact same way, because that will take away from this. Hopefully, one will love everybody, will show love to everybody, respect everybody, but true love can only be focused on one object at a time. That is why Hashem tells us, focus your love only on Hashem. Because if you do not, and you split your love, well, I love golf also, and I love this too, you're going to have a hard time of focusing your love only in it. Love requires focus, true love. What's the cure to all these three? For those people who are very materialistic, at the end of the parasha, you will see that the Torah tells us not to make gods of silver or of gold. What should we do? Mizbech Adama. So there is an interesting book called Sefer Magid Mesharim. It is a book that the Bet Yosef of Yosef Karo wrote, dictated to him by a malach, a Magid, that he was fortunate to have, that would instruct him what to do and would teach him. So many of the thoughts in that Sefer, or maybe all, are from the Magid. The Magid tells him what's the Pirush, Elohei Zahav, Elohei Chesed, Mizbech Adama, an altar from earth, idols of silver and gold. Idols of silver and gold have to do with that which we are attracted to, all that which is material, whether we think of it as useful or whether we simply like it. Silver and gold. The Magid tells the Bet Yosef, Mizbeach Adama, you only need to have Mashahiyuni Lecha, what is really necessary for your survival. All the silver and gold is extra. If one adapts this mentality, this philosophy, I only will buy for myself what I really need, what's necessary for my survival. Hopefully that will help him with materialism. Because what is materialism? It's extras, a motarot. You don't need to have it. It's a god of silver and gold. And it detracts, it takes away from your love for Hashem. It competes for love. And you cannot have competition in love. You cannot split yourself equally. Be therefore Mizbeach Adonai, an altar made from dirt. Just what your bare necessities, what you need. What about those who have a problem changing their ways? En lahem nechonut, to change their lifestyle? Well, this parasha begins with who? With Yitro. If Yitro can do it, and he was not Jewish, if he converted, even though he didn't have to, then you, who are a child of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, a direct descendant of the Jewish people who said, you better do it. So we can learn from those who have come from far. Gerim, if they can do it and they want to do it, you should do it. Imagine a lot of these people who are secular, what is going through their mind? What are they thinking when they hear that a Jew honestly and sincerely converted to Judaism to observe the mitzvot? He must be crazy, right? I mean, some of them may be thinking, why should he do that? Well, it's a lesson to learn. If he is willing to do that, obviously he investigated this and he realized this is important, then you should realize how important it is, especially if it's important to your father and grandfather. If they were willing to risk everything, to sacrifice everything for the Torah, obviously it was important. Then why shouldn't it be important to you? So for those who have a hard time letting go of their bad habits, their old habits, just take an example from Yitro. He didn't have to, he converted, he let go of all his honors to join the Jewish people. And then we have those who admire the wrong people and the wrong things. Well, for this reason, Hashem gave us Matan Torah, the Mamad Har Sinai, in such an impressive way. The Kolot Uvrakim, with voices from heaven, it was such a powerful experience to impress upon us, Shehu HaSamchut HaElyonah, he's the ultimate, highest, supreme authority. He is the one that you need to admire. He's the one that you have to look up to follow. Nothing else. Not Uncle Sam. Nobody else. And those people who are ruling Israel today have this problem, this exact problem, amongst other problems. They admire the wrong people. They respect the wrong people. They are afraid of the wrong people. They should be fearful of Hashem, not of the Arabs. They should admire the Torah, not the U.S. Constitution or some other piece of paper. The problem they have is admiring the wrong people. Am Yisrael therefore received the Torah in Ma'amad Har Sinai in such an impressive way, just to remind them, this is who you should admire. This is the ultimate authority. Priority number one. And that is what Moshe Rabbeinu reminds us later on. Ata horet lada'at ki Hashem hu elakim en od milvado. There's no one else, only Him. Only think of Him and no one else. What I'd like to do with the last few minutes that we have is just share with you some additional reasons of why Matan Torah was so impressive. Many people, of course, have a hard time to believing this truth, that this ever happened. That is why the whole incident had to occur the way it did. Hashem had to prove it to future generations that this is for real. This is therefore the only religion in the world that can claim that 600,000 adults witnessed it. All other cults and religions, there was one guy, or maybe a committee, who decided this is what we should do because some angel appeared to one of them. How do we know that this is true? Where are the witnesses? Am Yisrael were all witnesses. Would a witness lie to his son? Would a father lie to his son? This is what I saw. Would Moshe tell them, you all saw this? What are you talking about? We never saw this. Would anybody keep 613 difficult commandments unless he saw something? You know, the Jewish people are very tough customers. You think we can convince them so easily? They must have seen something. That whole experience was very powerful in order to prove to them and to future generations, if our forefathers, who were such a stubborn people, if they were willing to take this upon themselves, then obviously there must be something to it. So in the future, if there's ever a false prophet that tries to convince you otherwise, you are armed with a lot of proof. The Torah says you cannot change the Torah. The Torah says that this is forever. So any reform or conservative individual tells you, no, this is primitive, this was only for back then, the times have changed. The Torah says no. And the Torah was sealed. You cannot add, you cannot change. There was no committee involved. This is meant to be forever. It has nothing to do with the times. You adapt the times to the Torah, not the Torah to the time. The Torah therefore was given by Ma'amad Kazun Irbad in such an incredible experience in order to impress upon us and to impress future generations that this is for real. But there's something else. If you read this week's parasha, you will find a phrase that says that this whole thing happened in such a powerful, convincing way In order that the fear of God should be upon you all the time. What fear of God? The rabbis tell us that behind this fear, busha, that we are bashful, that we have a certain shyness. The neshama of the Jew has absorbed a certain busha, which not only prevents him from doing averot, he doesn't want to get caught, he's really embarrassed to do it, but there's more to that. The rabbis tell us that how do you recognize a Jew? By shanim, rachmanim, gomle chazadim. They have three characteristics. They are bashful, they are compassionate, they are kind. And if any individual is lacking in its entirety one of these characteristics, you can suspect that he may have non-Jewish blood running through his veins. Busha is a very important characteristic. That one is ashamed, he is embarrassed to do an avera. He feels terrible if he did it. And it's through this midah of yirah and busha that even a Jew who has become so distant from Judaism, at some point, his neshama, that has all these qualities, mitoreret bo. There is a divine spark that awakens him, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he is drawn again. That is why you have many Jews doing teshuvah. They all have that spark that has become soiled with all the tumah, with all the materialism, with all the admiration for the wrong things. But just clean him up a little bit, and you will see the diamond that will shine. Because every Jew has a divine spark in him that can shine, can come out, that can lighten up one day again. And last but not least, this most incredible phenomena that we in the 20th and 21st generation are witnessing, that so many Jews are coming back to the roots. Not only is that an indication that each one has a Jewish soul, and that spark is awakening, I'm convinced that this is the ultimate indicator that just like all of us heard the Kol HaShofar in Matan Torah in Har Sinai, very soon, B'ezrat Hashem, all of us will hear the Kol HaShofar of Elyahu Navi. B'mehera v'yameinu amen. Anybody who wants to see the stone from Har Sinai, I have it over here. You can come and see it.